Topic Thunder, it's Topic Thunder. Just acknowledging knowledge with no scholarships. It's Topic Thunder, it's Topic Thunder. Breaking everything down, tech to politics. It's Topic Thunder, it's Topic Thunder. We don't tell you what you want, we just give you what you need. It's Topic Thunder, it's Topic Thunder. News, brews, and views from these Chi-Town streets. Topic Thunder.
Oh, folks, welcome into a special edition of Topic Thunder as we set off for an emergency mission aboard the USS.
Emergency!
Right. Aboard the
Hit
USS
the button.
Papa. This one's an interesting one. It's often, or actually, it's not often. I guess. I should
Yeah,
say,
very, very unoften.
that we get to cover
Unoften a
something-
word is that not
Not
often?
often.
Not often.
Not often enough.
Unoften is a word I just invented.
I like unoften. Is
I invented a new word there.
you have.
I'm gonna message the people at Webster's Merriam.
So shall we all.
Yeah.
Unoften that we get to discuss such a monumental decision and an impactful choice upon not only U.S. Politics but global politics, right? As we've outlined throughout the course of this entire podcast and all its iterations, the importance that we are a global community, and what happens to one affects all.
Right.
So here we
That's
are.
why foreign policy is kind of an important thing.
Right. A little bit, and understanding your neighbors and understanding history.
Yes, that's the biggest part of it, is understanding history of regions and things of that nature.
So, without
So yeah, we got some stuff to talk about here tonight. Actually, one specific subject.
and that's all we're gonna kind of talk about in this SE. This
A special episode.
Special episode here is strictly focused on the sudden, the abrupt decision by sitting President Joe Biden to drop out or at least resign as the presumptive nominee moving into the Democratic National Convention here in Chicago in give or take 5 weeks. Right? A surprising move, given that a day earlier there was a resolute tweet and message sent out that he's staying in the race. Which
A lot of his representatives were very resolute. I happen to watch CBS News in the mornings, and they had one of his representatives on, and they asked very pointed questions, like the ones that you would want them to be asked, right? About Biden dropping out. Is there any chance? They were trying to leave the door open, and the Biden representatives were staunch that Joe Biden was going to be the nominee, and he is going to see this thing through, and he intends to win, and blah, 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 blah. And then less than 24 hours later, on a Sunday afternoon,
right?
The timing of it, I think, is what no one has really said anything about. It is very interesting. Not waiting till Monday morning, a Sunday at 2 p.m. in the afternoon.
Well, according to sources, and you can start, and thanks to shout out to Gigi for also dialing into certain podcasts and getting collecting info as we aggregate information and this rapid fire kind of media cycle, I guess. That the decision was actually made Saturday night after like several of his closest political confidants and aides, I guess specifically one aide, basically, which think about think about how good of a friend that person has to be to
Sure.
sit down and go, "Hey, look, we've been through
It's
a
over,
lot.
Johnny.
We've been through a lot. You've done so much, and at this point, you have blinders on because you think you can do this, and you might be able to do this. However, that is not the public perception,
Right.
and it at this point will be weaponized against you because let's be honest, the debate performance, because every subsequent appearance of Joe Biden after that has been the same kind of lively, like, grandpa's feeling good today. kind of
Right. Exactly.
appearance,
They
right?
have. Yes, he has. It's been very performative. Yes.
Right. But that one performance, that one time, like absolutely, for whatever, he was sick, he was whatever.
Right. Whatever
It doesn't
reasons,
matter.
excuses. Exactly.
It doesn't matter.
It is what it is. It happened. It happened. Yes.
It was there
We all saw it. Millions
Right.
of people tuned in and saw it all collectively at the same time. And our eyes just could not lie to us. You could not convince us of what our eyes saw. Yeah.
And not only America's eyes, but the world's eyes, right? And that becomes more important when you kind of, outside of the scope of this particular episode, a special edition of Topic Thunder, outside of the scope of this, like that has broader implications in world politics, given everything that is going on right now. You do want to talk, obviously, Ukraine, Russia. You want to talk Taiwan. You want to literally Greece and Turkey have kicked up some dust recently, and they have a long simmering feud. Just go ahead and look into what Cyprus.
Google it, as they
Google
say.
Cyprus and understand, like, oh shit, Cyprus sounds exactly like Israel, Gaza. Kind of, there's one side kind of divided in.
Feeling
That's-
like they are divinely.
It's a different podcast.
Yeah.
That's a different show.
yeah, exactly. To the point of Aunt Chris, history, I do think, will look fondly upon Joe Biden for this decision. It's not often that a president, I think it's only happened 2 other times that a president willingly steps aside or does not seek re-election when capable of being re-elected. If I heard correctly, I believe it's George Washington and Teddy Roosevelt. Both of them, and history looks pretty fondly on those. I'm not saying, let me be clear, I'm not saying Joe Biden is the same man and in the same breath of a George Washington or a Teddy Roosevelt. By no means. The man has a ton of flaws we're not going to get into tonight. I'm not saying, but it is a historical thing that does not happen often, and it is always looked upon as a person stepping us, knowing their role in reading the room and saying, I'm not the one to lead you here. I have to pass the torch to someone else. I know this is not for me anymore. Like, this isn't, I can't do this. I'm not meant to do this. I'm not the best person for this job.
And it was fulfilling his own prophecy, which was he wanted to be the person that bridged the gap. That like he literally called himself at one point a transitional president.
Yeah.
Which he ends up being one of the best. He'll go down. Let's just cut right to it right now. Joe Biden will go down as one of the most successful legislative presidents of all time. And that's looking at what he's accomplished in just a vacuum. But then you add COVID, that he kind of got elected, right? He got
at the end, but still he was handed the recovery. I was halfway through, 75% of the way through the worst of it.
2020 is not the end of COVID, my friend.
That's
It
true.
was not, and the numbers prove it. That was not even the peak of COVID, and he was handed a fucking mess of a national response.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The idea to send everyone home, tell them to quit their jobs and file for unemployment, history will go back and look at that decision as the decision that I don't know if lit the fuse is the right way, but it kicked off a change in the global economy. That decision alone, rather than payroll back all the businesses in the country, which would have been a much better idea, a more sound idea, would have kept a lot of businesses in business, would allowed people to have stayed at the jobs that they were already in, and no one would have had to quit their job and file for unemployment.
Look, man.
None of the PPP bullshit that was abused, absolutely abused.
You know this better than most. We could have done and should have done both. And we're not going to go back and relitigate like COVID, right?
Right. But the response to sending everyone home, and yes, everyone needed to go home, right?
Thing to do, man.
Was the right thing to do, but
for a certain period of time,
to tell everyone to quit their job and file for unemployment while doing that it sparked a change in this country.
But the right thing to do if there was a proper national apparatus set up to respond to that,
which was dismantled
at the immediacy of of Donald J. Trump's presidency.
Right.
Literally took the Ebola pandemic response playbook and said, and threw it out the window. So they had nothing to go on. They had nothing to. That is why we suffered so much during the COVID pandemic. We didn't have to, because it was a bungled response from the central government, which Donald J. Trump was in charge of until January 6th of 2020.
You know, Adrian makes a good point. It is frustrating that he waited as long as he did. There is some frustration to that. But I'll say this. I don't blame him as much as I blame, again, the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party should have had Kamala Harris ready from the beginning. They never should have put Joe Biden in this position. Because like what you said, he even said he was a transitional president. He didn't intend on serving 8 years at the beginning of this. We've said this multiple times. They sold us on Joe Biden as a Band-Aid. Just let it. He's just going to bridge the gap. He knows what he's doing. He's got friends on both sides. He can get some shit done.
Perfect for it.
Yes.
Perfect man for that job.
Kamala Harris was ready
Day one.
6 months ago.
Day one.
Or yeah, I mean, as the vice president, right? She's got to be ready to be able to take over, right? As the vice president, you have to be ready on day one to be president, because the next day you could be called into the starting lineup, so to speak.
Well, for sure, and credentials that rival, if not surpass, Hillary Clinton's.
Yes. She's got her flaws, which we'll get into. But there's no perfect candidate. There is none. There isn't one. There is one.
There are no.
I've come to that conclusion. I've come to grips with that. Right, like the perfect person.
Grill. That perfect grill doesn't exist. It's either there's something wrong with the propane connection, or it doesn't get hot enough. The lid doesn't seal right. There's always something wrong with that grill.
No one is going to 100% align with the way I want to do things, the way I think things should be, right? And that's healthy.
Well, that's politics. That is understanding that, look, here's my agenda. I think this is the right way to go. And I'm going to campaign and try to get as many people as I can to agree with me, and then obviously vote for me based on this platform. However, with the understanding that what if I'm lucky enough to be elected by my peers, that I'm just not representing the people that voted for me. I represent everyone, and that the people that agreed with me on a 100%, all the maybe kind of wacky ideas of universal health care, let's just say one, throw it out. Right?
Yeah.
The ideas that I believe in, and these other people who are vehemently against it. So how do we come to a consensus? That word consensus is what's missing from American politics these days, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Why did he take so long? Because he's a stubborn old man who's been a fighter his entire life. The fact that he did eventually, albeit late, is still an accomplishment and
Sure.
something a true hero does. He literally laid down on the sword.
It's a huge decision. And obviously, you can imagine how gut-wrenching a decision it is, because there is some level of certainly of like failure, right? Like that he has to deal with. Like,
hold on, I actually want to stop right here and
Sure.
say to Mr. Ryan Hansen, there need not be a
right, because the
special
convention
election.
hasn't happened yet.
He is not. Nobody has been nominated the official Democratic nominee until the
Very
convention.
important. And I think that's part of the timing.
That is exactly part of the timing. Almost now, 3 weeks and change from the DNC here in Chicago. Like, that is when a person becomes the Democratic nominee, is when they accept the nomination at the convention.
Yeah.
Beforehand is basically just a referendum, albeit important, and usually leads to that nomination on the floor, literally on the floor of the convention.
Right.
Pay
There's a
attention.
vote that
This
happens.
is-
Yes.
I've been on Okay. Okay. Can I just express one serious frustration? Is that in the last 8 to 10 years, there have been a lot of people who have jumped on the political bandwagon. And
Yes, we
applaud
talked
that.
about this. Yes.
I applaud that. We want you to be engaged. However, there have been a lot of us that have been paying attention for so much longer. And not that we know better, but that accumulation of knowledge and experience and seeing, oh my gosh, this is the same playbook that so-and-so did. We just have to understand that the process here is what's important. It's not, there are rules to this, and all of these things have been laid out in front of us, and we can't just say, oh well, because he got 14 million primary votes, he's a presumptive nominee. Well, he's stepping down from that position.
Yeah, no,
There's
exactly.
a mechanism for that.
You have to keep in mind that the DNC changed the process, kind of changed the rules for Joe Biden. If anyone was looking for a coronation, the coronation had already happened. There was no primary. There was no one that was running against Joe Biden for the nomination for the Democratic Party. Zero, none. So it was already presumptive. It was already a coronation, which was something that I had a problem with from the very beginning. So now we get what a lot of people that were undecided or didn't like the idea of voting for Joe Biden, we actually get what we wanted, which is now Kamala Harris has stepped up, right? She's been endorsed by a number of people, but it doesn't stop anyone else from speaking up. Joe Manchin, Shapiro, any of these guys, they can all step up and say, I'm going to throw my hat in the ring too. And everyone is welcome to the party. And then when we get to the convention, the delegates will vote on all the different prospective nominees, and we'll have it. Now, we all know what's going to happen here, right? Everyone is getting in line. That's why you're not hearing anyone other than Joe Manchin even chirp about the idea of running as a nominee, because everyone
he declined this morning.
Yes, I saw that.
Yeah,
yes.
He said I'm not. But
even he understands that the machine is now moving behind Kamala Harris. Oh, yes. And so I guess this is as good a time as any to shift the conversation a bit to now focus. We talked about Joe Biden and his laying on the sword, as you so eloquently put there.
That's what he did.
We can now talk. Yes, Kamala Harris now. She's been handed the ball, right? She's been preparing for this for 4 years now. Yeah, she's been preparing for this moment.
Her whole life.
Her whole life. Honestly, you're right. It's not understating it.
To not underplay that. Like, it's not that she lucked into the VP role. She was chosen for very specific reasons. She's been elected numerous times in various positions of government. She has been successful in all of them. She is bright. She is articulate. She is charismatic. She
Yes.
has a great, and she actually. Here's the most important thing, Ben. Here's the most important thing. She knows how to talk in sound bites and look good and pleasant and a common person while talking in those sound bites.
I agree with you. That's a great point. I'll tell you what I think is her strongest point. I think her strongest point is this. A woman, and specifically a woman of color, does not get to the position that she is currently in as the Vice President of the United States of America without having dealt with an amazing amount of misogyny, racism, and prejudice on her way up the ladder and as she worked her way up. The rooms that she has had to sit in and hear men talk down to her and take it and plow forward and be successful is why she is going to absolutely destroy Donald Trump in the next debate.
Is there a way to God damn it. Is there a way to do a poll on this? Because
I don't know. Other than an informal one, no.
Here's a poll question. All right, here's a poll question. What would you rather pay for? Mike Tyson versus that Paul
Jake
guy?
Paul? Jake Paul?
Or Kamala Harris versus Donald Trump in a debate?
Not in a fight. Although I would pay for that
right?
too.
Oh, please.
Yes.
Come on.
Kamala Harris would whoop his ass.
In a heartbeat.
But no, seriously, she's going to destroy him because she is a prosecutor, right? She is used to taking information in, one lie, and then coming back at that person with facts to destroy that lie.
I already know you're lying. Planned on you lying.
Bingo.
And had like, okay, you're going to go this way. Well, we've planned for that.
With all of her flaws, she's the perfect candidate for this because I know this. She's not going to be bullied.
Come on.
She is not a woman who has ever been bullied in her life, and she's certainly not going to be bullied by foreign leaders or people in Washington. I feel like she at least presents herself as a woman who walks into the room and takes shit from nobody. And so as a commander-in-chief, that presence of a commander-in-chief, like she gives that presence in a way that few women can because they've not lived her life. People,
not women.
Because they have not lived her life and come up the way that she has as, again, all the prejudice, all the misogyny, all of that, all the bigotry that she has had to deal with on her way up. For her to have gotten to this point is really impressive, and she is going to be very good, like you said, in sound bites and destroying Donald Trump as he tries to lie on stage. And she's younger. She is. I mean, let's not state the obvious, but she is significantly younger. She feels like a breath of fresh air, so to speak.
The GOP's chief criticism of Joe Biden was that he was too old. Sleepy Joe didn't know the name.
And now how the tables can turn, huh?
Oh boy!
Now how the tables turn now.
Again, go back to that poll, Ben. My original poll idea. What would you pay for? Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson or Kamala Harris versus Donald Trump in a debate? I'm paying for, if I had to pay for one, I'm paying for Trump Harris, because that is going to be an absolute bloodbath, an absolute dissection of a human being who's been terrible all of their lives.
Yes, because I heard it put perfectly. I don't know which talking head said it, but she is a former prosecutor, and what she is going to do is she is going to prosecute the case of Donald Trump versus America, and that's how she's going to. That's how I think she's going to present this to America. She's going to put on a case, so to speak,
so
to the American people.
Let's let her. Give her credit, and so I think it's the third Twitter or X link I sent you, the ACYN.
Yes.
let's let Miss Harris tell you why she will be good in a debate.
So in the days and weeks ahead, I, together with you, will do everything in my power to unite our Democratic Party, to unite our nation, and to win this election. You know, as many of you know, before I was elected as Vice President, before I was elected as United States Senator, I was the elected Attorney General, as I've mentioned, of California, and before that I was a courtroom prosecutor. In those roles, I took on perpetrators of all kinds.
The ability to control a room. Look at that.
Look at that.
Predators who abused women. Fraudsters who ripped off consumers. Cheaters who broke the rules for their own gain. So hear me when I say, I know Donald Trump's type.
Donald Trump has never said anything more charismatic or powerful as that.
For real. And they just, like The Rock, she's standing there just soaking up the fucking, the crowd. The crowd pops and she's just soaking it in.
So that, when...
There's a link to a Twitch poll. Thank you, Hayden. Well,
Hayden,
I'll put that in my back pocket.
It is not only the power of a lady, it's the power of an educated, experienced person.
Yes.
Look, I understand. Look, I don't want to
I understand the point that you're making, though. Is like it's easy to keep referring to her about and her gender and her race.
She's a black woman. She's an Asian woman.
Because it is significant, but it yes.
Extremely qualified
Yeah.
as an individual. Has nothing to do. Look, it has and should not have ever anything to do with their gender or their race or their beliefs. It is what they've done and what they will promise us to do. And if they fail on those promises, that is our decision, which we have failed on over and over again, to vote these people out every 4 or 2 years. That is on us. You don't like your politics, you need to vote better. Oh, but hey, okay, so one of the most important things about this decision, and the first question generally asked, is, well then who's going to be her VP?
Yes,
Who's going to be the VP, right?
We talked about we had a very good discussion about this. Last week, a couple weeks ago?
We talked about this and we've been hinting about this. Like, well, what does this look like before this even solidified? And of course, you can always tune in to Topic Thunder on Wednesday nights, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. You can see us on Twitch, YouTube, and the Facebook. We hinted about this and the possibility of, like, well, what would this look like? What would her VP look like? Because there's obvious, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, obvious political, cultural concerns regarding what this VP should be.
Let's talk about who we talked about, and because I think it's interesting. I think we came up with a really solid ticket a couple of weeks ago when we talked about Kamala Harris and Pete Buttigieg, and felt like, man, those two really are like a powerhouse team, right? And I felt really strongly about it. I felt really good about it. And then I spoke to a couple of my friends, one who is on the left and more left-leaning and more liberal-leaning, and one who is on the right and more conservative. And they both had the same reaction, the exact same reaction, which is very sad about where we are still at in this country when it comes to homosexual men. But the reaction was the same. It is not sellable to enough of the American public to have a gay man be at that high of an office.
And a black woman at the top of your ticket. Let's just say a black Asian woman and a gay white male at the top of your ticket is not going to sell. We talked.
What
about
does
this.
that say? It's for me that's sad.
Well,
like why is race, gender, or their sexual preference playing any part in whether or not they are capable of the job that we are asking them to do? Why are we still at that point at this point? Because there's even a difference between lesbians and homosexual men and gay men. There's a difference in the way we look at them and what we're allowing them to do. It's just like, why are we still here with this?
With all due respect to Aunt Chris, this is not unique to Americans.
No.
This is a human problem. And because we've never been challenged as the dominant species on this planet, as human beings, whatever, Russian,
right.
Indian, Asian, African, American, Caucasian.
Humans are the top of the food chain.
We've never been challenged. We've never been humbled. And in the instances of our species, where we have been humbled, it's been erased from our history. So we're still a species in its adolescence, so to speak. And
good point.
That's not specifically endemic to Americans.
Because Buttigieg, I'm about to put up on the screen a list of potential candidates for vice president that came out from Axios, right almost immediately after the announcement came, right? And Pete Buttigieg is not on this list. And in anything that I have seen, and I've tried to watch a little bit of everything to just kind of get a flavor of what everyone is thinking on this thing, and his name does not come up at all in any real discussions. He is just not on the radar at this point. So we have to say that at the beginning of this is like, yeah, I think we both agree that he's probably the best option, but we also have to recognize that we're just not there yet as a society.
Okay, so Ben, you're a sports guy. You've drafted super uber talented future franchise quarterback to your team,
Mm-hmm.
Pete Buttigieg, right? And you have some clearly aging out of the game. This is last year. He's retiring with all the accolades, quarterback, and you have several middling, a B plus like quarterbacks in the pipeline, but not necessarily like the.
You don't have the guy. You don't have a franchise guy.
You have Pete Buttigieg on the bench, who's clearly going to be the incumbent, the heir to the progressive Democratic movement. Do you introduce him into a situation where he's going to lose? And soundly, honestly, let all of us be very clear. I have a hard time believing that America, in all of its warts, all of its glory, elects a black Asian woman and a gay man for their
highest offices.
The highest offices. I don't think that happens for various reasons. A lot of it might be outside influence, but also the general and well-reported rot inside our society as far as racism
and bigotry and prejudice.
Goes, right?
Yeah.
I think you have to look at it like that, and you have to have that long-term vision. And oh my God.
Yeah, another 8 years from now, Pete Buttigieg, the temperature is probably very different. Hopefully very different in favor of.
Look,
yes.
So okay, let's go over to the
because the Trump generation, they're going to die off at some point. Like they're not going to live forever. Those that are at the top of power right now, on both sides, frankly, are not going to be around for very much longer. There is a shelf life on the current political elite, and so who are the people who just is, like you said, he is the face of the next. And so keep him in the background. Like you said, I think that's what you make a great point is
Just protect.
don't put him there to lose now. Let
Protect
him simmer, protect your asset, put him in matches where you know that he's going to be able to shine, and let him build up to be your world champion, because you know that if you shove him down the people's throat, they're not going to accept him.
Because eventually, the way
Roman Reigns is a great example. If you were going to use a wrestling example,
The Rock,
The Rock,
Bloodlines
right?
too, right? The Rock, they pushed The Rock down he was the blue chipper, Rocky Maivia, with his blue fucking stripes. You would never, everybody closes their eyes right now, and I told you to think of a picture of The Rock. Right?
It's not what he originally came out as.
Not what he was forced to be at the origin, or at least his debut. And here's the most important part: is that protecting this particular, like, we know we've got something here, is that we can try to bridge through the turmoil, and then, like, Kamala Harris is exactly the kind of person you want to bridge through the turmoil, because she's a fighter.
Yes.
She's a winner.
Mm-hmm.
For real. And gosh, I might be flying my Dem flag pretty proud right now, but look, was Hillary wrong about Donald Trump?
No. Go back, and if you go back and watch what she said was going to happen, almost verbatim.
And then what happened to Hillary for trying to warn us all?
She was sabotaged
And basically murdered
by the FBI.
But murdered on a political altar.
By the FBI. I'll never forget the idea that weeks before the election, an FBI investigation is opened, and then weeks after the election is over, it is quietly closed. So obviously political bullshit that changed the course of American history. Like, you want to talk about stolen elections?
That was one of them. That was the one.
Without sounding like a crazed fucking conspiracy, if you want to make a case for a stolen election, the FBI opening up an investigation weeks before the election that they knew they didn't have any credible evidence for, but were pressured by political people to open the investigation in order to smear Hillary Clinton's campaign and her person. And it worked.
They appeared on every major. That news was the front line and front page of every.
It was the thing that everyone that was in the middle and was like, I don't know about Hillary, but maybe. And then they went, see, fuck that bitch. I'm voting for Trump now. Fuck it.
And let's not also discount the very righteous idea of, I want political change. I want political change.
Yes.
And I'm 50-50 on this. I'm going to give you right now the 50% that I'm like, yes, we need political change. You are absolutely right. We need finance reform. We need electoral reform. We need to question the Electoral College. And then I'm going to look over here. I'm going to go, did we really need to throw a grenade in the middle of American politics by being lazy, uninformed, and just because right now, excuse me, I'm going to be loud, you've decided to pay attention to politics just now.
Right.
Because some guy gets on there and he sounds good and he's gonna be he sounds like your grandpa or the guy you used to work
he's
for.
saying the things I want to say
here, and just because you decided to vote without any prior knowledge of the system or the mechanics behind it, and then you think you're entitled to make a decision about what's best for this country and for everyone else with your limited knowledge is frustrating to those of us who have been paying attention to this since, fucking junior high school. Sorry.
Yeah, no, and I'm guilty of not having paid attention for a long time and almost actively working against the idea of the voting and political process. Like, I was in that camp for a really long time. Like, I bought into the George Carlin bit of, if I don't vote, I have all the reason to complain because I didn't vote for this bullshit. And I, for a long time, was like, yeah, George Carlin's on to something. But then I got older and I got more informed and I realized that I understand what George Carlin was saying, but it's actually not correct because it led us to the point where we went backwards, guys. We went backwards from 2016, where we were in 2008. We went backwards from that point.
Okay, so hold on. Wait, I don't mean to go back. I don't mean to cut you off, man. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. No, we're good.
Those of us that are have been alive prior to the events of 9/11 can truly tell you the difference in this country between that moment and now. And
yes.
It just seems from that moment forward has just been not a gradual, but a precipitous descent into something that does not resemble what happened and what was prior to 9/11.
I agree.
I don't know what that answer or solution is. I will tell you that I don't think somebody like Donald J. Trump and the sycophants that surround him and are putting tampons on their ears are the ones that bring us back to there.
No, the America that they want to bring us back to is they still can't really answer that question. They can't exactly tell you.
Water fountains,
because whenever they do tell you an answer, there's always something that this horrible thing, you want that to come back to that time period? Because our history is riddled with racism, misogyny, and bigotry. It's built on those things. So any era you are going back to, the undertones of that success that you want to go back to, it was built on misogyny, racism, and bigotry. That is not a platform that is sustainable. You can fantasize about those days and you can romanticize them, but there are horrible, awful undertones to anything that you think was successful about those time periods. So you're right. We're looking forward now. We're looking forward, and that is an energy that Kamala Harris brings to this. Is the age thing is behind us now, right? That is no longer an attack that is viable for Donald Trump. And what they've now done is they've put Donald Trump and his campaign on the defensive. They knew what their strategy was. The strategy was just keep fucking punching, keep Joe Biden on the ropes, don't knock him out, keep him up, but just keep battering him. And just keep battering him and keep battering him. And if we do that, we'll get to the end of the rounds and we go to the cards and we'll win by decision. Right? That was, if in boxing terms, that's what
and by the way, we've got the Supreme Court.
There's not a whole lot of strategy to what they had to do to beat Biden. They just had to continue to exist. And he would have beaten Biden. We know that now. We all feel that. Like, that was going to happen regardless. So now they've changed it on them, and I can imagine, despite whatever front the Donald Trump campaign is trying to put on, you can guarantee that it is all fucking bullshit. And behind closed doors, they are worried about having to fucking go up against Kamala Harris in debates and in finding the attacks on her. There are some, but I don't know how relevant they are anymore. This is a blow that throws the Donald Trump campaign on their heels. They were on their toes up until Biden steps aside, and now they have to have been kind of put back on their heels a little bit and say, whoa, okay, we may have been somewhat prepared. There was probably some discussions about, well, if this happens, but they probably weren't taken seriously because they probably felt like Biden was going to stick it out because he's a fighter and he
told us he's going to stick it out. Like, he's told
right.
us
There were all
camera,
indications were that he was going to stick this thing out. So while you're preparing for it, you're not really preparing for it. And now on a Sunday afternoon, it fucking drops and you have to kind of scramble the resources now making new ads. All that spending, they're forcing the Trump campaign to spend more money now. Like, it's going to deplete the coffers a little bit more. Like, there's a lot to this that is a strong move on their part. So, we kind of wavered, but let's get back because this is an interesting discussion because the picks here are very interesting. I don't know much about some of these. Some of these people I know quite a bit about. But here's some of the names, Brooks. Go ahead and tell us what you know about these guys.
So as possible VP picks, because if Madam Harris is the presumptive nominee, she will need to name a VP choice. And here are the choices, or at least the short list as rumored through our very well vetted out sources. Mark Kelly, who's a U.S. Senator of Arizona, former astronaut and former Air Force pilot, who was also the husband of former Representative Gabby Giffords, who was the victim of a 2011 mass shooting in Arizona. I like the idea of having a military person and a scientist as a VP. That just seems like that's
I think
cool.
Yeah, I think he's the safest
right.
pick. I think that if you were going to tell me out of this group who's the safest pick, he's moderate in his politics.
Let's run through the list real quick.
Yeah.
Roy Cooper, who is the governor of North Carolina, who won the state in 2016 and 2020, even though he was kind of anti-Trump. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, who has been a ginormous aide of the Biden campaign and the Democratic machine in his position. Andy Beshear, governor of Kentucky, who has been a Democrat elected 3 times as the governor.
In Kentucky, that's saying something.
Kentucky, right? Gretchen Whitmer, Democrat governor of Michigan's a huge swing state, lots of electoral votes. Josh Shapiro, also governor of Pennsylvania,
another swing state
of electoral votes in a swing state. So we throw all of those names out there, and it's not just who's the hot hat. It's not that. It's you now have to scale back and go, well, who's representing the portion of people that feel disenfranchised by the choice of Kamala Harris as presidential candidate, but then get engaged or motivated by the choice of VP.
Yep.
Because they represent their region, their state, even their choices, or further their political beliefs. And that's kind of where we are right now. Let's just straight out say that if Kamala Harris is at the top of the ticket, again, being an African Asian American, rules out the idea that there will not be a person of color at the VP, right?
Do you think that's the case? It's going to be a white male or white female?
It almost has to be. Let's just be honest.
Of the candidates that were being, I haven't seen a whole lot of black faces. Raphael Warnock, I think, was one of the people I saw that was
real good. But is he more valuable as a senator in Georgia?
I think there is something to this pick. There of the picks, there's reasons, there's pros and cons to all of them for exactly like what you're saying, strategic reasons, right? There are 3 of these people that I don't know a whole lot about. I will plead ignorance on Josh Shapiro, Roy Cooper, and Andy Beshear. I'll plead ignorance. I don't know much about them, but Beshear, having been elected as a Democrat in Kentucky, that does say something to me because goddamn, Kentucky is about as red as you can possibly imagine a place to be. So, and they also voted for Rand Paul, of all people. If you ever listen to Rand Paul talk, you know that he's not very intelligent. And if you ever hear Rand Paul talk, you wonder how the fuck that guy ever got elected to an office and continues to get elected to an
Or you
office.
just
But
wonder about Kentucky. Unfortunately, Aunt Chris, Beto's kind of done.
yeah, that guy, he ruined his shit. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I liked him. I wanted to see good things for him, but his political career is over. But I will say this. So then that leaves me with the three people that on that list that I do recognize and I do know a little bit about, and that's Whitmer, Kelly, and Pritzker. And I think when you break it down, those three have three very interesting reasons why you would pick them, and more reasons to pick them than to not. Let's just say it. I think Pritzker has more reasons not to. But okay, so I'll break it down this way. Pritzker is the riskiest pick of the entire group. Very risky for a couple of reasons. He's very liberal. Very liberal. A lot of people look at Illinois and don't think favorably of our politics, right? They point to the crime in Chicago and all the tropes that you hear, right? And how there's a mass exodus. Taxes are outrageous in Illinois, and
even though we've now had the 5th straight year of a balanced budget.
Never mind that. Never mind the fact that marijuana is legal. Never mind that gambling is legal. Never mind that as far as freedom is concerned, Illinois is one of the freest states in the entire union. Never mind that.
He just announced a quantum computing. The dude's always bringing.
He's a staunch advocate. The positives. Go ahead.
I'm just gonna Ben. I'm going to take executive action here, and like Gigi said, you are not allowed to remove JB from our.
Well, I think he's not going to get the pick.
I don't know if he wants it. Look, if he wanted to, he would. The dude's got the money. The dude's got the clout. The dude has the political apparatus to do it. If he wanted to, he would do it. Just don't take it.
I was explaining to one of my conservative friends at work today because they like to ask, when something political happens, they like to ask me because I'm like the only liberal in the entire city of Lubbock, apparently. But he lost my train of thought here. Pritzker. He was asking me about Pritzker, and I said, there's a lot of stink on him because he's very liberal, but what people don't account for nationally is the fact that Illinois is not a blue state by any means. It's really two different states politically. Truly. And so for a governor to be able to negotiate across the aisle and get liberal policies passed with Republicans signing on to those in many cases, and in some cases, that is a valuable thing. That shows that he, for as far left as he is, the man can still negotiate with Republicans and at least pitch his case to why his ideas are good enough for the state of Illinois. So there are some positive with Pritzker, but I just think he's too risky because I think he's too far left. That's where I feel on Pritzker.
For this political cycle.
Yes.
I will. It can't be Gavin Newsom because, according to, I believe it's the 23rd article of the Constitution or amendment, that you can't have political operatives from the same state on the same ticket.
Which is fine because we've talked about Gavin Newsom being toxic in a lot of ways anyway. That's fine.
I'm not in the Gavin. Pritzker is a different story because, again, Ben, you and I were talking off air about the difference between how Pete Buttigieg speaks to people. Mm-hmm. Is different than the way, say, Barack Obama speaks to people. There's a condescension inherent in Barack Obama's speech. It's just him. That's just the way he is. That's just who he is, right? But JB has that ground level ability to communicate. I'm not gonna lie.
Maybe a Pritzker Buttigieg ticket 8 years from now might be something.
If there's something to think about, because for all the things that I read, negative and positive about Pritzker, the one thing that I can honestly say, in everybody's opinion, about the man is that he knows how to put together a competent group of people and a team. Which
Yeah,
is
that's
what
important.
your
That's
job
what you're asking the president to
That's
do.
what
Yes.
your job is. Put
Yeah.
the most competent people forward.
You're the
to do
GM
their
of the
jobs.
you're the GM owner of the you're the CEO of the United States. Act like it. Yeah.
Right.
So that's how I feel about Pritzker. I believe that he would be a solid pick. I'd be okay with it. I actually would be kind of excited by it, but I don't think he's going to get picked because I just think he's a little bit risky, right? There's too much risk there.
Don't take him for a mouse, please.
Yes. And you know what? He's doing good things for Illinois. That's my homeland. So I'm okay with you guys keeping him. That moves me to Whitmer. Whitmer, I don't know a whole lot about her, but obviously 2 women on the same that is almost as groundbreaking, but a little bit more, much more palatable than the Buttigieg idea. To have 2 women on the ticket and 2 women in the highest offices, I think that's a tough sell still.
It's going to be a tough sell. I'm for it. I think she's a good politician. I don't necessarily.
She handled COVID pretty well, if I remember correctly. She was one of the few, like Pritzker, that handled it the way that they were asked to, and didn't give pushback on that. So
right. Again,
she was also attempted to be kidnapped.
Her kidnapping attempt, yeah, which is absolutely true. Those men are currently in federal prison for that. It's just, again, we have to step back and say, okay, we have to strip down the political accolades and accomplishments and qualifications and honestly have a conversation about, well, what are the extraneous things about me voting for somebody? And that's when the conversation has to be had, like, well, can you get everybody to vote for 2 females on the same ticket for president and VP? Versus the whomever,
Yeah.
Donald Trump and JD Vance, and I think that's where you kind of lose out. And
I agree. And JD Vance would probably have a field day with Gretchen Whitmer in their debates.
I'd like to see it. Just again, I'd pay for the political theater.
Yeah.
You might be right. I would not defend my Gretchen Whitmer position against JD Vance in a debate, just knowing I don't think she has the pizzazz to, when Vance throws out something absolutely ridiculous, that she has the ability to go, okay, hold on, that is just the dumbest thing anybody's ever said ever. So that kind of leaves us then with Josh Shapiro.
Well, there's one there. There's one I think is going to be the pick, and it's not Shapiro.
You don't think?
I think you already mentioned him.
You think it's going to be Mark Kelly?
I believe that's the pick for a number of reasons. I believe he's the safest pick.
No, no Bernie. No Bernie.
No.
Look,
I love Bernie Sanders, but he had his time. He has his place in history, that he sparked the progressive movement. That it takes generations to change what Bernie Sanders has tried to change, and he will be the inflection point that this country will look back at. If we do get the progressive progress that we all hope for, he will be the man that's looked back on as the man that brought it to the forefront and got the ball rolling downhill. So he'll get his flowers. He is the man. His ideas still stand up. I still support him. I still think he's a great person. I think we should all listen to his points of view on almost every subject, because he has a well thought out, level-headed approach to almost everything that he does. But he's not a VP pick. But Mark Kelly is. Mark Kelly has chops. He's moderate enough where he's not extreme politically. The fact that he's an astronaut and he's a scientist.
He's military.
He's military.
He's
got political.
He's a scientist, and he got into politics. And those are things you just can't argue. So, okay, J.D. Vance.
What is he going to say about Mark Kelly?
What,
What's
Right?
the argument? That's why I think he's the right pick.
That's
Because
the
he's
debate.
he's
You have to
Teflon
understand-
almost.
You have to understand the debate cycle. It's like president versus president in a debate, and it's going to be vice president versus vice president
Right.
in a debate. It's not president versus vice president or in any concoction or rearrangement of that equation. It is VP versus VP, and then that look. For whatever you think JD Vance is, Mark Kelly is 1,000 times that. And I'm not downplaying whatever you think JD Vance is. I'm not.
Sure. Seems like it seems like he had a solid upbringing, like of hard work and military service, whatever. But whatever. But he's not an astronaut, a fucking scientist, a politician.
Look, think just folks, just think about what it takes to become somebody that we decide to send into space. You're probably more qualified and more vetted out than a presidential candidate.
Yeah, for real.
There have been, I will guarantee, there's probably more people in space than presidents, but I'll guarantee you, Mark
Kelly is from Arizona, which is also important, which is a swing state as well. That's why I think that it has to come from a swing state. That's another reason why Pritzker won't be the pick, because they need somebody from a swing state.
Swooning over Mark Kelly because he all accounts, like, why not?
A victim of gun violence, so no, you can speak from that. Yeah, I mean,
like a former politician.
Yeah, he can't make fun of Kelly. You can't. There's nothing that you can like poke at or downplay or criticize. Really, like what do you say about Mark? He's like the nicest guy.
He's everything you want out of a politician.
Yes.
Literally, like, okay, so all right, disgruntled American AB123. What do you want in a politician? Well, I want somebody who believes America was born here. You should probably have some military experience because America, right? Like, I'd like him to be well educated. I like to have some experience in American politics too, because I want him to know the game and everything like that. Okay, all right. Let me mix all that together and pour out Mark Kelly.
He checks all the boxes. Yes, he checks all the boxes. So I think I would be surprised if it's anyone other than him, to be perfectly honest. After kind of seeing all the names, seeing all the resumes, I think he's the pick. I think he's the right pick for this cycle.
It might be Shapiro from Pennsylvania for a lot of other reasons, and I will throw his Jewishness into the equation there.
Didn't think about that, but yeah.
But also a big-time swing state and a state that is generally kind of red-leaning, except for its like urban areas. That also might play into the equation. Look, if you're a political operative, those are the conversations you have. Like, oh, he's a NASA scientist. He's an Air Force veteran. Oh, but this guy's a Jewish businessman who's been a very successful, like, governor. Who would more people vote for? That is the discussion. And that was the discussion today here on a special edition of Topic Thunder. We do want to show you one little palate cleanser before we let you all release you to your Monday nights, which is
release you back into the wild, as it would be.
Is there a better description of where we are politically, not only locally but regionally and then nationally and globally, than the Wienermobile had an accident and it turned over? This was on the highways and byways of the Chicagoland area, where I don't know what happened. I don't know how this happens, folks. But, yeah, we had a rollover accident. Can you imagine the call? City 421, this is the car 43. We are reporting that the Oscar Mayer. Wienermobile is rolled over on I-94 westbound. Jane Addams is closed. All 3 lanes in the westbound lanes of the Jane Addams are closed right now. Car 53, did you say Wienermobile? Yes. Dispatch can confirm. Car 53 confirms the Wienermobile is rolled over. All 3 outbound lanes of the Jane Addams are closed. Just one more time, just for the record.
Did I hear you clearly?
You're saying the Oscar Wienermobile is turned over on the highway. All 3 lanes are blocked.
I love it. So muffled you could barely hear.
That was the pine. Anyway, doesn't that not sum up our politics right now?
It does. We were talking about this off air. It was worth bringing up on air, but you and I, of course, have a different relationship with the Wienermobile. And those of us that spent any time at the legendary OBT apartment complex will tell you that the Wienermobile was not that special because we got to see it literally every day.
Nice.
For reasons I still don't truly fully understand.
Apparently,
maybe you know the story, but the Wienermobile was parked outside in the parking lot of our apartment complex every day for years.
So apparently, I don't know the story. I don't have an inside source at Oscar Mayer. But there can only be one explanation, that there was a hotel, literally probably, 200 yards?
Yeah, you could throw a rock and hit it.
Yeah, right, from the legendary OBT complex, the compound. And the Wienermobile would be in their parking lot.
All the time, every day.
Like
every
a lot.
day.
Like during the summer, it was almost like, oh, the sun's up. Oh, there's the Wienermobile.
Yes.
Right?
Oh, I'm going to work. There's the Wienermobile. I'm coming home from work.
Drunk
there's the
eating,
Wienermobile.
like Chef Rick steaks and burgers off the grill here at OBT? Absolutely. Hey, there's the Wienermobile.
There's the Wienermobile. Yeah, people come over for the first time and they'd be like, "Did I just see the Wienermobile outside?"
Yes,
Yes, you did.
And GMB, Grandmaster B, would take his scooter and go scouting out and check that out. Our only conclusion is that they must have been housing the pilots, and yes, I call them pilots, of the Wienermobile at that hotel just outside the legendary.
So it did crash near Oakbrook, and Chris is saying. So there is something to that. They must house the drivers of the Wienermobile at that hotel in Oakbrook. It's weird.
They got a wiener deal at the hotel.
Yes.
Hey, it's a special edition of Topic Thunder. And from here on, we're not going to talk about the election ever
Unless
again.
something really important breaks in the next
of the
48 hours. Join us Wednesday when we discuss anything but the election.
This was the election special, I guess. And yes, like Ben said, Wednesday. We'll be back. We're going to talk a lot more science, a lot more other cool things outside of this weird political event.
Palate cleanse. A whole episode palate cleanse.
Show. Yeah, might be anything but the weird politics.
Just funny animal videos.
That's all. There's pandas being assaulted by leaves and rolling down a hill. That's it. That's it. That'll be next Wednesday, 7 p.m. And we do appreciate everybody jumping on for the special edition because we don't do this often. So from the decks of the USS Rapapa, my name is Brooks. It's been a Topic Thunder SE.